law does recommend four map changes, and by four I mean 4 parcels into map changes. So 3 parcels are going to go from the IP, or at least the proposal is to go from the IP to the SR2, and then 1 lot is going to go from LB Sugarloaf to SR2, and I can give you those lot numbers. So you're going to want to look at those specific lots and answer the questions again with respect to that. You can also are welcome as a board to make, if you find a typo, please let us know. Those kind of things, you're not confined to those questions. You can certainly raise comments, but from a regulatory, that's your charge, is to answer those questions. I do want to just, I'm more of the process, and I'll let Kristen speak to some of the comprehensive plan goals because she spent the time with the committee. But I do want us just speak to the process. Your previous code made references to special permit. There were like 6 or 7 references to special permit, except there was no regulations for special permit, and it wasn't clear. So we have pulled that out and made sure we have created a whole new special permit section and designated provisions for special permit. And that is, that's in Article 5 under Planning Board. Okay. I left 29. There's some substantial revision, but that article now flows special requirements for specific uses. So if you have a specific use, you're going to go look, does it meet the specific requirements? That largely follows the same flow. And then I'm getting there. One second.
So I did pull up Article 5.
Site plan approval is in the same spot. That's at 9830. And then I have added the special permit procedure. I think that's 9831. Getting there.
Special use is 9831 standards. Yeah.
9831 is your special permits. And that largely follows the state law procedure. Special permits give you an opportunity, things such as if there's a use, you can ask them as part of a condition to require a renewal. So you can check at renewal time. Have they done what they said they were going to do? Have they been the good neighbors that they said they're going to be? Have they done their maintenance like they said they would do? Things like that. Okay, so that's a new procedure for you. Your site plan procedure has been amended relatively heavily because the site plan procedure really conflated site plan, subdivision, and special permit. And they really are 3 separate applications. Often they come together. You might have a subdivision and a site plan simultaneously. You might have site plan and special use. You could have all 3. But under your state enabling statutes, and that's the state law that authorizes towns and villages to have planning boards, they are treated as 3 distinct applications. So the code really, in my mind, was this mosh pit of the different procedures. So I tried to separate that out. For example, I got rid of preliminary approvals. They don't exist in the state enabling statute for site plan. They do in subdivision, but they don't for site plan. I think it also muddies up the water because you give somebody a preliminary approval, they disappear for 5 years, and then they come back, and then they say, well, I got preliminary approval 5 years ago. What do you mean you don't like the project now? And then and I've seen municipalities, right, Kristen? You've seen municipalities get stuck with something because there was a preliminary approval of some
Yeah, I mean, or you've got, applicant has something in their hands that says, when you did this before, you said that there were no impacts associated with this height, this size, this whatever size building, so now that's expired. Or you come back 10 years later and there's a neighborhood next to you instead of something that, the surrounding circumstances could be entirely different.
Another procedural thing I did, I'm a big fan of this. I made one section for public notice, and everywhere that says a public hearing, you go to that section. Because if you sprinkle out in one section, it could be, you have to notify 500 feet, 300 feet,
Right,
whatever it may be. One standard, one process, one, you're welcome, Melissa,
I was gonna say
9831.2.
Hallelujah.
And we've also incorporated a signage requirement for special use permits. So if an applicant, because honestly, these days, folks don't read the newspaper. They don't get the green card. They're like, I'm not gonna go collect my certified mailing. And unless they're in that mailing radius, what's going on? The sign, they drive past it and they go, ooh, there's a sign. What does that sign say? And then that's how.
It was talked about to do it for public hearings too, but
Mhm.
that, I don't know if I didn't see that in there. I don't know.
No, it's the public
It's
hearing.
just for the special use.
It's just for the special use permit because it is expensive. There is a cost to it. So if you've got somebody coming in for a very minor site plan,
Right.
Because they have to make the sign. So there is a cost to it. So we were trying to minimize the number of applications.
Is there like some certain like?
Yep, there's
dimension
standards.
Of what the size needs to be?
The sign shall be at least 30 inches by 20 inches.
Okay. That's-
Oh, there's a typo though. Sturdy and serviceable materials. So that's that polycore
Okay.
containing a white background with black letters and shall be placed in a location plainly visible from the most commonly traveled street upon which the property fronts. But, there's a double typo. Look at that. See, I'm finding all the typos. In no case more than 20 feet back from the front lot line. And the lettering has to be 2-inch lettering. In addition, let me just going through, I won't talk to you about the ZBA stuff. There is a whole new section, Article 11, on battery energy storage systems and equipment. That's a brand new section for you guys. That didn't exist. And we also went through and added a lot of definitions. Struck some unneeded definitions, clarified some definitions. For example, floor area ratio was not defined. It's now defined. Some fairly large things were not defined. So we went back and added a lot.
I just had a question about
Sure.
floor area ratio.
Sure.
It's, I think it's 20%. Is that,
Well, floor
So-
area ratio is based on the size of the
Size
lot,
of the
and
lot.
it's a scale based on the size of the lot. So we have not touched the floor area ratio percentage, the values. What we
just
had,
put the table in?
the table was there. The table was there. My poor assistant, because when I copied it over, it didn't copy well, and I had to make him manually put it into a table, and he had to go line by line to verify that we weren't altering any of the numbers when formatting. Poor guy. What we have done is corrected some of the definitions, but the biggest flaw with your floor area is it did not define the calculation. of how you calculate floor area ratio. So we have put the calculation in the code.
I had never looked at it before, and to see, I understand the rationale for it, but as the lots get bigger, the houses get bigger, like
Can get, yes.
just to outrageous proportions. At 1 acre, about 8,700 square feet, which I could see their houses may be that big. But then you go up to 2 acres, and
Yeah.
so
You can
it
always,
just struck me as the numbers
yeah.
seem to go up out of proportion. Even
We
though
can
they
certainly
don't.
evaluate it. We did not as this go around. Certainly floor,
Just a comment. I know it's not maybe our place to.
you can
I
certainly,
was struck by that table. If you read it to the bottom,
yeah.
the size of the houses gets.
This
just massive.
board has the authority at any point in time. And I often find with some of my boards, when I do I know I don't represent you guys regularly. Sometimes I find when we're representing a board, we get an application and we're going through the zoning code and we're like, ooh, that's an unintended consequence, or, ooh, there's, this is, sometimes you get some of the really old provisions are not realistic for today's standards or something. And you go, that shouldn't be there anymore. That's not that's not helpful. And that you're certainly welcome to write a letter to the town board at any point in time and say, hey, we came across this processing an application. We ask the board to consider this. And the board can either take it up or it can't, but you certainly, as part of your purview as the planning board, can say, we found something in the code that we think needs to be changed. And you should write a letter articulating what needs to be changed and why it needs to be changed.
I don't know if this is a duplicate or not, and this is a preliminary site plan review, that the planning board is authorized to retain such consultants, and then in the site plan application, it's stated again, but it may be for, where, so in D, it's stated here, and then in H, it's stated here.
The site plan application.
Retain such consultant necessary.
The
But-
site plan?
It fits in both areas.
Yeah, I'd rather have it twice than not at
Than
all.
not, yeah.
Sometimes,
Because if you're doing just this
but I
specific.
what I wanted it to be clear is that this board has the authority to hire,
Right.
if you're having a battery energy project, you're gonna bring in a specialized consultant for that project. You're not just gonna, so.
Rather have it twice than not
I'll
enough.
just look. Site plan.
What's that?
She just took one of your questions? Fortunately, it's not like college where they're like, everybody has to have one question. I know what you're talking about.
So I mean, it's better twice than, So this one is in D, and then this one is in site improvements under H.
E413D.
Oh, I misspoke. I got rid of the sketch plan, not preliminary. I misspoke.
Okay.
Took my pages out of sequential order too, which isn't helpful. Public hearings.
Yes, I see it now. It's fine in both.
It's okay.
It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll leave it there.
And I did see, I don't know if we're putting in, that the applicant has to put a performance bond for the full cost of the project. Did I read that wrong? For an E? So a performance bond or a letter of credit or cash deposit, cost of all improvements and treatment
That's what's, yes, that's what's being,
inserted now. So
proposed.
proposed, so they also have to pay, like if it's going from, like Oak Woods went from one lot to, and there, we just imposed, I think in January, that it's a $5,000 dollar lot per lot.
Is that a payment in lieu of parks?
Yes.
So
That's
that's
park.
separate, that's
Right.
separate in a park.
And now this is going to be.
Yeah, typically that's for on-site the bond
It's
is.
typically public improvements, should it specify?
We're having this discussion in Monroe right now, because Monroe has similar language to this. And that's a discussion for the board. How far, some municipalities, it's purely public improvements. Some municipalities, it's broader than that. That's a discussion that you guys can evaluate and provide comments on. Right now, that's the proposal.
And then there's a
Town really
5%
cool.
total cost for the town engineer for the inspection.
That's inspections, yeah, that's pretty
Right, so
customary,
that's-
yeah, that's pretty customary.
For a subdivision, that you wouldn't bond the construction of the houses themselves,
No, it's not the building itself, it's everything else, though.
everything outside of it, okay.
Because
I
it
mean,
says
but
full
even, like,
cost of all improvements
driveway,
and
the
treatment.
the driveway is, the stormwater pond, like you wouldn't bond for that in a subdivision, you might not build it for, as you build it as the lots are built usually.
So that can be a comment.
I mean, letter of credit can sit, it's not really costing a developer anything, but
I've had this debate in a couple of municipalities, about what the appropriate level of. So put that in your comment, if that's a question.
Okay.
And sometimes the comment can be a question itself.
Oh, that's good to know.
Don't give me too many questions to answer, but it can be,
The other one I saw, and this is just something small, and I don't know where I saw it, it's about having, I think it was at 3 acres that you could have a 1-ton truck parked. That goes back to it being, forget how long ago that was implemented. And now it's bumped up to 6 acres. So say if someone, that's their work truck or that's their,
so I think you're referring to, the accessory contractor storage.
Right.
Generally, somebody can park within, and there is a section, if, Joe the plumber
is residential.
is
home.
residential and has his work truck, he can park his work truck in his, he can take his work, now can his driveway become a parking lot for a fleet of work trucks?
Right.
No. But you have an accessory, like contractor's yard, which is far more than just parking a single
Right.
work truck. That's storing and supplying and everything else. So I think that was a committee recommendation, Kristen, to up that to
Yes.
6.
yeah, that's in residential zone too.
That's in residential.
Because I know like.
It's a weird accessory use. I've never seen that kind of accessory use. So I think the thought process was, if you're gonna have the contractor's yard, you really need more acreage than the surrounding homes.
But if you have one work truck. and you bring
That's
it
not a
home,
contractor's yard. That's you.
It's okay. It's the 6 acres won't.
I don't. We had discussions about that. I can try and find that.
That's okay. No, I kind of just derailed this, so let's go back to where.
I have to do this by word search because I'm not that good at.
I actually had the same similar questions about it, but then it like differentiates between just like a homeowner and the contractor's yard.
Give me a second. I have like multiple folders of all of this. Let's see. So that truck issue is addressed in 98-22, which is your off-street parking and loading facilities. In residential districts and on residential lots in all districts, licensed automobiles, commercial vehicles under 1 ton, and by 1 ton we mean, we had this whole discussion because it wasn't defined. 1 ton is intended to be in the classification of vehicle, typically a pickup truck with a 2,000-pound payload and not the weight of the vehicle. And motorcycles may be parked on the driveways in the front yard. Utilities and recreational camping trailers, recreational camping vehicles, and boats with or without trailers shall not be parked in the front yards. They can still be parked, but typically they're parked in the side yards or in the back. In the AR3 and SR1 districts, 1 licensed commercial vehicle over 1 ton capacity and agricultural equipment may be parked and or stored in conformance with the following minimum requirements. And then that's the,
So I think that's going to affect a lot of people that are currently a 3 acre and they bring their work truck home. They're like, say, a service truck, you know.
well, they would still,
Maybe it says, but it says it's going up to from minimum lot area from 3 to 6 acres. And the SR3, then everyone that currently does it in SR3.
well, the 6 acres is only an AR3 and SR1.
Right.
So certainly if you guys want to discuss the potential, again, that's an
Is there a
implication.
definition of contractor storage? I'm sure that says that there's gotta be some type of actual action, not just the parking of the vehicle.
There's no definition, but let me just double check the bulk tables. This is,
There's nothing that defines it in the bulk table, but I think if you just include a definition that makes it clear that it's
yeah, the,
more than just this, more than just the parking of a commercial
Yeah,
vehicle,
yeah.
it's the actual storage of equipment or
the contractor, the
permanent storage versus an overnight parking situation.
Yeah. The bulk table reads, contractor's equipment storage as an accessory to a residential use with site plan approval in conformance with 98-22A4. So I see that more as the equipment and not
A truck.
a truck. But if we're asking these questions, then the appropriate thing to do is clarify in the zoning code.
Well, let me ask it a different way.
Melissa, I hope you're taking good notes.
I have a tractor. I'm thinking about getting a larger tractor. Would I be able to have tractors on my property? I have 18 acres.
Well, you
Yeah.
far exceed the 6.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that would be ag. A tractor is an agricultural vehicle.
yeah.
Or a lawnmower, one of the two, and either one's permitted.
Also, if you're storing it in the garage, under most codes, you can store pretty much anything. All the codes about, unregistered vehicles and everything else, if it's in the garage and the door is shut, we do not care.
Doesn't fit in my garage. Sorry.
Yeah, 18 acres requires a bigger tractor. So I think just, Melissa, if you make a note that to clarify that, we can add some language clarifying that. That's I think, a simple fix.
For
Contractor storage yards.
It's got quiet.
I don't know that we need it. I don't know that you do. Melissa, don't go nuts. I don't think you're gonna need the projector. I don't have pretty maps. I don't have a pretty presentation.
Then, good, so that I can take amazing notes. And everything is online.
So the other thing I saw, I'm not trying to put my questions out there. If you guys direct where we should go and go over what you want to go over, and then that's,
Go for it.
as I see things, I noted some things. It said, in the cluster, it said, in its judgment, shall have the right to reduce minimum lot area requirements for cluster development in order to achieve increased open space preservation or benefits beyond those required. My question is, are you leaving it in the planning board's hands that you can dictate the size of what the lots can be for a cluster?
So what that is essentially doing is stating, so if you look at the bulk tables, you have your minimum lot size, and then in parentheses, you have a smaller number. That's your bottom number,
Okay,
right?
okay.
You may not, just because you're clustering doesn't mean the planning board can go to two, it has to go to two. But like, so for example, 3 acre AR3, you know, you guys may say, we can reduce that lot size. It gives you more discretion. So you can be less than 3, but more than 2. So that's kind of mirrors. So you still have the bulk table there too.
Should that be in there as per the bulk table or no? It's
That's fine.
repetitive, okay. Okay, I'm done. So I see something.
I have just a small issue under Article 1, General Provisions. Excuse me. It talks about clear cutting.
Land
This
disturbance.
is in the red, yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's more just a definition.
Mhm.
A method of harvesting where substantially all trees on a site or portion thereof are removed. Clear cutting is prohibited except in association with land disturbance activities within limits of disturbance shown clearly on approved site plan or subdivision plan. It feels like there's something missing in the definition are we talking about a percentage of land?
So like
that's
a
clear
minimum-
cut,
a minimum,
Yeah,
okay.
some kind of a minimum,
Okay. I can carry that over
whether
from
it's
the
a
land.
percentage or an area.
Need minimum. Nope, that's a good comment. I can clarify that. That's easy.
That's the definition of clear cutting?
Yeah. It's
In the
it's in the
definitions.
definitions. It's Article 1.
Okay.
It's more I see his point, the portion thereof, you know, if I clear 5 trees on my 2.7 acre lot that happen to be clustered together and leave an open space, that's not really clear cutting.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But if I clear 20% I get it. If I clear 20% of my trees, that's clear cutting.
I can look up, the town of Cornwall and the town of Newburgh both have, tree clearing laws that I can see. if they
Also,
have-
well, we also have I'm gonna get to land disturbance. We instituted a whole land disturbance permit, and that's in 9812. We had lots of discussions about that because your old code, I think that's in 3. Your old code 9812 used to be removal and excavation of soil and stripping of topsoil, and had a fairly small thing about that. And really, the way it read was that was akin to soil mining, quarrying, and the general consensus of the committee and comprehensive plan is we want to move away and start making quarries and that kind of use non-conforming and move away from those uses. So we really said that's not really what we want to encourage. So let's take it out of the code. There was lots of discussion about clearing. We have had situations in the town, and we wanted to make sure. So we've instituted a land disturbance permit scheme that's fairly lengthy. And again, that's in Article 3, 9812. And so I can go through there to see if there's a standard I can carry over to the definition. Minimum standard. Now, if you approve clearing as part of a site plan or a subdivision, hey, we're gonna clear this section of the property, that's fine. They're not coming to you for a separate permit above and beyond that. This is stuff outside that. It also exempts I want to be clear, it exempts bona fide agricultural activities.
I have a question in that
Sure.
article, not the disturbance, but the non-conforming, it's D2, 3D2, just,
I know, what you're talking about.
I'm just trying to imagine what the circumstances of that might be, if you could provide an example, or,
Okay.
you know?
So, Joe, I'm gonna go back to Joe, picking on Joe today. Joe owns 2 side-by-side parcels in a 3-acre zone. He's got a 1.5 acre parcel with a house on it, and he's got a 1.5 acre parcel. If they are in the same ownership, they merge, and he's got 1 3-acre parcel. Okay. So,
How does that affect the assessment, the assessor, SBL, and everything?
so depends on timing and depends on each case fact specific. Sometimes they're still assessed separately and the merger is not identified till they come to the planning board wanting to do something with that second lot. And you're like, wait, that's a non-conforming lot next to a non-conforming lot. And at that point they would be merged and then the assessor would merge them and treat it as one assessment. Sometimes they see it and they do it automatically. Sometimes owners request that lots be merged so that they can get a project done. Or the planning board makes a condition that, you've got two lots that they're going to be merged so that they operate as one development. And then the assessor would merge them. But for planning purposes, merger is pretty typical, that if there's a non-conforming condition that can be remedied, because you've got other land over here, you don't get to rely on the you don't get to rely on the undersized lot.
You're not sort of grandfathered in.
Now, if you've got 2 lots with a house and a house that predate zoning or predate the change to a higher zoning, then they are pre-existing we're not making anybody tear down their house or a structure. But if they've got a perfectly good vacant lot next to them, they would merge. Most codes, in my experience, right, have a merger provision.
Okay, thanks. It's not something I'd seen.
You also see people sometimes get sneaky, and this lot's owned by Joe, and this lot is owned by Joe LLC, and then they're not in common ownership. Your goal with this is just a broader thing. When you adopt a comprehensive plan and then you adopt a zoning code, your goal in general is wherever to the extent practicable to eliminate nonconformities. So whether that's a use or areas, right, is to eliminate those nonconformities over time. If a pre-existing use, they're grandfathered till the end of time, so long as they continue that use. But if they abandon that use, they lose that. But that's ultimately your goal, which is why use variances should be fairly rare. But again, this is one of those provisions to kind of move folks along with respect to nonconformities and to work towards eliminating nonconformities.
One thing I did see, and I'm not sure where I saw it, I have to go back to find it, is notification is typical for a public hearing.
Mhm.
But did I read in an area that notification for a preliminary?
Yeah, so, and this can be a discussion point for the board. I don't take a position one way or the other. Your code has a permissive, essentially application notice. A notice gets mailed to the neighbors saying, hey, an application, Warwick has this requirement. Hey, an application has been filed. We're not at public hearing yet, but you're allowed to follow it along. Here's my point to the town board when we had these discussions about this proceeding, this amendment. If you're gonna have it, have it. If you're not gonna have it, take it out. So it was, the planning board may require either do it or don't. Because if you say to one applicant, you have to do it, but you don't, and somebody said, why are you it just opens that door to why are you treating us differently? And that's not, so the town board said, you know what, let's leave it in. Let's see what the public comment is. I don't have a position one way or the other than pick a spot in or out. So I'll defer to you guys to deliberate on that point. It is an additional expense on the applicant.
Do we want to go to zone, what the zoning changes are, or what you had said before, Kristen, when we started?
You want to look at the table or which zoning did you want to look at?
I think you had said to go over the table, is that, I don't know which direction.
Sure, I think, Liz, did you get through the full list of, I think that you went through all of the
biggies.
text,
Yeah,
the high points of the text changes? I think so.
and we tried to give you red lines so you can kind of see where they are. It could take me hours to go through each individual. I think I've got most of them. I think, and having Kristen go through, now, Melissa, if you want to pull up the bulk tables, that might be helpful.
From 2017, correct? Or the
Or
one
the
that?
2025?
The new ones, the proposed ones.
I did have one other thing in Article 4 there about ridge overlay.
That was one of the goals to to tweak the ridge overlay.
Right, which is great. There's where is
I'm getting there.
it talks about, it names specific roads. Pine Hill Road, Bull Mill Road, Black Meadow Road, or a state, county, or interstate highway. I don't know if does that cover all of the roads? 3 local roads and then state.
I would make that comment. I would include that comment in your letter then.
I don't think that we changed that, though. I don't think that that's a change. That might be the existing
It's in
language.
red on my.
Hold on, I'm
Oh,
getting
is
there.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
the ridge
actually,
provision
but
may
the
have been
other-
just, like, repeated.
Maybe it was already there in the. Is this,
I know what you're talking about. I just have to find it. Give me a second.
Yeah, I don't think that we certainly didn't subtract any.
No,
No, I was just wondering what the wording, if it was, for example, Pine Hill Road, Bill Mill, as opposed, it sounded like it was limited to only those local roads.
Oh, it's specific instead of being
Right, yes.
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't, it's ridge preservation, so I think that that's just the major connector roads in the areas of the town where the elevation is relevant to the ridge preservation.
Based on the map, it's on the map.
Yeah, that's.
it does say, the visual, so in D2, hold on. It's in 2 spots. So visual impact analysis, the visual impact assessment, and I should change that so it's the same. The visual impact assessment shall include a photographic study taken from designated vantage points or areas along Pine Hill Road, Bull Mill Road, Black Meadow Road, or state, county, or interstate highways with the location of the proposed clearing, new structures, and its site indicated thereon.
All right, well, based on that,
I
Then
think the
we
planning
have-
board has,
yeah, the planning
also
board would have discretion to
From-
review a view shed map before any analysis was done.
from distances and vantage points as determined appropriate by the approving agency. So I think you have, if there's a specific point that you're saying this is an aesthetic resource in terms of the rich overlay, you can, see everything. You can say, we want it from, you have that flexibility as a
Yeah,
board
that's
to
fine.
say,
I was looking at the
this
one,
spot.
it was in the procedure paragraph.
Yeah, yep.
It's worded a little differently.
Yeah, so that's, right, so if a lot fronts on a lot that, or, a street that isn't mentioned in that list, then you would still evaluate the impacts to neighboring properties in the analysis.
I think those roads are really designed to be the, when in doubt, start there.
Yeah, no, I think specifically they're in the areas of the town that have the higher elevations and
Yeah.
in the map that goes with it.
But you can, if there's a look, every case you get, every application you get is going to be a site-specific application. And we can do our best to word this as, but we're never going to regulate for everything. There is just no way. So I think the intent here is to give you some flexibility, because there's going to come up some situation where you're like, yep, not an issue from the road, but it's an issue from the park, or it's an issue from whatever. Kristen, I'm gonna let you do the bulk table.
All right. we
You
can
lucky dad.
No, we can shoot through the bulk table. I think we'll just start with AR3 and go right through. But for the most part, the major changes to AR3 are kind of, Liz already talked about the cluster regulations. So you can see that the lot areas and the setbacks have been increased a bit in the cluster regulations. And then consistent with the plan's recommendation to really encourage agricultural and support agricultural uses as much as possible. And to make sure that the town's code is consistent with New York State ag and markets regulations. We've added agritourism uses as an accessory in the AR3. That's on the second page. As you scan it, scrolling. You have agricultural uses, and a lot of the bulk regulations. So like you'll see small scale energy, large scale utility systems. So that Liz already talked about adding that to the code. You'll see that instead of having separate bulk, it just will refer back to the special permit criteria in the code so that there's no ambiguity or confusion. All those regulations and setbacks and things for those uses are right in that special permit criteria in the code.
When you're talking about the small scale energy.
Yep.
I was looking at the section. It
The
talks
solar.
about the requirements for any solar.
Mhm.
Somebody they sell these devices at Jackery or EcoFlow device that they have set up charging. Does that require a permit?
So that's solar.
Yeah.
What's on the bulk table? You're talking battery, I know what you're talking about, battery energy
Well,
storage system.
they usually have solar chargers with them now. Even have solar generators or solar powered air conditioning units.
Well, let's go to the definitions. Always start with the. Let's see. A small-scale solar energy system is a solar energy system that does not produce more than 12 kilowatts per hour of energy or solar thermals, or a solar thermal system, either of which serves only the buildings or structures on the lot upon which the system is located.
Does it include portable? Is my question, really.
Portable, no, because portable isn't attached to the structure, isn't wired into the structure.
It can't be plugged into.
I would argue that it's not. Chris, I don't know.
Pack it up and put it.
I mean, my general electric appliances can be plugged into the house.
But you don't need a permit for them.
Right. I don't think something that's plugged in it's not a permanent structure.
No, I'm not arguing the point. I'm just asking the question. Because there's the ability to do that. You can get an eco-flow system that you plug into your house and powers your house and recharges with solar.
And what is the size of something like that?
I'm not sure what the kilowatts are, but it's
No, I mean, like,
How big
Physical
is
size?
it?
it's like a suitcase. A big
yeah,
suitcase.
I don't think the town has an interest in regulating that. I think the point of this is regulating solar panels that are 12
Glare
feet
and
high and
Yeah.
hundreds of
glare
feet wide.
and
Something you
Yeah.
all
can't pick
that.
up and put in your
and-
garage.
Also, dismantle, things like the solar fields at the end of their useful life, there needs to be a procedure,
Decommissioning plan.
decommissioning, all that fun stuff. So I don't think that would qualify.
Well, if it would be clarified, so it's not an enforcement nightmare down the road.
Something for our comment.
You can add it to your comments.
The existing code that says solar energy system does not include a solar energy system of 4 square feet or less, so that's very small. I don't know, what I saw had to do with the size. It could be on a house and a sticking out, or
But just research that stuff all the
visual.
time.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
go to Harbor Freight and get solar panels,
Yeah.
charge something.
People, that's the thing where you are gonna get something in front of you, or the building inspector is going to find something, and you're gonna be like, we never thought somebody was gonna try to do that. And
Yeah.
you're like, and there is a little bit of game of whack-a-mole in terms of writing a code. Because you get that application, you go, it needs code. It's not, and there's not much you can do, so it is a little bit of a game of
It happens
whack-a-mole.
all the time. But yeah, so is that exclusion and that's solar or systems that are less than 4 square feet, does that cover what we're trying to cover, or do I need to revise that definition too? It says that excludes anything less than 4 square feet. That would exclude whatever you're talking about that just
Yeah,
plugs in.
probably the smaller ones, yeah, it would.
All right, so are there any questions on AR.3? I think for the most part, these uses are things that you've all seen before. I don't think there's anything terribly surprising in here. All right. SR1, again, you'll see the differences in the cluster provisions with the setbacks in the minimum lot area in parentheses. That they differentiate based on whether the house has central water and or central sewer, which is the case today.
You'll also see all those SUPs under site plan approvals. Those are all now special use permits.
Right, so now there's specific provisions and procedure in place for anything that is a special use permit, which gives the planning board a little bit more discretion to be able to review some of these items a bit more carefully. Anything that, typically those special permit uses are things that have a tendency to need to be reviewed so that they're not aggravating the neighboring property. Something like, if you're operating a bed and breakfast inn in a residential neighborhood, that's something that the planning board's going to want to look at carefully to make sure that it's, if they're not throwing concerts at 1 o'clock in the morning, there's not
Yeah.
outdoor speakers and lighting and things like that, to make sure that that's all not going to drive the neighbor nuts. Again, so solar, I don't think that there's really much, any change to this besides those cluster regulations, quite honestly. I think SR2 is this in the same boat. Varying lot requirements based on whether or not you have central water and sewer. A handful of special permit requirements that are, most of those are there today, so nothing really new there. SR6 is your zone that allows for some additional housing options. Again, they're based on whether or not you have water and sewer, but most of the SR6, I believe, does. I don't think we added anything of note to this. The RO district, I think that we increased, I don't think that we did anything to RO. It's really only like 2 or 3 lots directly adjacent to the, Whispering Hills. I'm like, what is that? A complex. It's like backs up to Whispering Hills. So I don't think that we did anything to RO. It's really like 3 lots. For the most part, it's like 2 houses in a converted office.
And a
over there.
lot of what we did was small tweaks and cleanup of a lot of the stuff for clarity. So
I mean, there was a lot of stuff that either didn't make sense or was kind of out of whack. So we, just kind of looked at some of those things, and a lot of instances. I mean, not maybe more in the commercial than in the residential, but some places where we did change the definition of maximum development coverage to include all impervious surfaces, which I think is a good change because you always want to look at the property as a whole. But then we did have to go back in and make sure that that change wasn't totally making a lot of commercial properties that do have sizable parking lots, either making them illegal or making the lot impossible to develop appropriately later down the line. So a lot of those kind of changes like that. Again, with this, been like making sure that special permit was applied where relevant. In the LBSL district, we tried to, again, this plan, the comprehensive plan, I think put a lot of emphasis on support for Sugarloaf, and trying to be as flexible as possible to allow Sugarloaf to succeed and to, for economic development purposes, build with as much flexibility as possible there, kind of keeping in the character of Sugarloaf, so allowing mixed use buildings, allowing reduced lot lines, reduced lot setbacks and things, auction houses, galleries. There were things that were very common, like seemingly appropriate for Sugarloaf that were not. I think galleries weren't permitted in the zones. We added some things like that just to make it clear that all of those uses are permitted, and all of them are permitted as of right.
the biggest change that was requested by the committee was that because there's been a trend towards converting a lot of those shops to all residential, and that part of the character of the Sugarloaf community was your mixed use with some sort of residential, mostly retail, artist shop, whatever, down on the first floor, street facing, and then apartments upstairs in the back. So we tried to, and you'll see we referenced the site.
Yeah, we changed the we clarified the definition of mixed use, because either way, either mixed use, their definition didn't say you needed to include a residence. So mixed use, there was confusion a few years ago on a project where mixed use was interpreted to mean multiple commercial uses in one building. And
So-
you can do that on a ground floor, not on a second floor. So we just tried to clarify that to make sure that you're.
We got a question when that bidding process for Scott's Met, went for sale,
Yeah.
for auction.
Right.
And they wanted to know if it could be
And use X, so 29X, right, which is, that use is specifically tailored towards the Sugarloaf zone. So it's labeled mixed-use buildings in the LBSL zone.
Yeah.
It's discusses the intent. Multi-use buildings shall have at least one commercial unit. In new construction, such commercial unit shall be at least 600 square feet. Dwelling unit shall be located above the floor at grade or to the rear of the building in such a manner that at least one commercial unit has windows and an entrance fronting on a public street. Dwelling units shall have a minimum of 600 square feet of livable space and shall provide parking in accordance with the parking requirements set forth in 9822. So that's really that goal, if your intent is to keep the old style of the historic style of
Yeah.
retail residential.
yeah, we didn't want property owners in Sugarloaf having to come in for variances or restricting what they could do. Really wanted to, as long as we're keeping in the existing character, we wanted to be as flexible as possible there. LB, I think in LB and GC together, we kind of looked at the uses very carefully. The committee, again, wanted to encourage economic development as much as possible and encourage kind of hospitality uses like hotels and restaurants, outdoor dining, outdoor recreation, kind of modern uses. I think we did allow maybe that was GC, like film studios. We wanted to make sure that a lot of modern uses were able to be pursued in these zones, and we got rid of some of the zones, some of the uses that were less compatible. I think Liz mentioned quarries, things that involved heavy machinery, loud noises, outdoor noises, outdoor processing. We tried to get rid of some of those uses so that those uses would not then discourage the development of a restaurant. You probably don't want to sit outside and dine next to a rock quarry. That is not encouraging those type of uses. So that was the thought process there with the changes that were made in the LB and the GC zone together. OP is another one that's kind of limited in location in the town. I don't think that we made a lot of changes here, if any, to any uses. IP and I, we added some more modern uses. Again, you'll see film production, outdoor recreation. We added requirements. We added some requirements for buffering against residential properties. You'll see the one in the IP district, you'll see that one in parentheses, and that is a requirement for where the property adjoins an AR.3, SR1, SR2, or SR6. There'll be a vegetated buffer of at least 150 feet. So that is a new requirement to make sure that we're buffering any industrial uses or large commercial uses from any residential properties. That was probably one of the biggest changes that we made to the industrial districts. We added film production, we added outdoor commercial, we added restaurants, bars, and retail as accessory to indoor and outdoor recreational uses. Again, trying to keep things kind of modern and flexible to encourage those types of uses as opposed to more industrial uses. Any questions? I'm going through this really fast, but most of this stuff the majority of it is there today.
I have one.
Sure.
Under 9811, under accessory buildings, where it looks to customary residential accessory uses. I think it's F.
Let me get there, hold on. I'm glad that you guys have insights. Sometimes I go to like planning boards and present this and they're like, okay. You guys have like read it and have questions. This is great. You said 9811.
Yeah, section F.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, that definition is different than what's on the table. What's customary. I don't know if that's intentional or.
Well, I think the goal was to clarify because a lot of the bulk tables had customary accessory uses without going into, so I'm just looking at this. Oh, are you talking about AR3 and stuff like that?
I think they're all the same as far as the customary use district for the most part. It just reads different.
Let me just take a look. Just double check something. It's a good catch. Let me just. Okay, I can make that.
Maybe a combination of the two.
I think some of it is what is customary residential accessory is in the eye of the beholder, and we want the eye to be slightly narrower than like the world. So I got a note for consistency with bulk table.
You know, I noticed that when I was going through the tables that in some locations, like it says swimming and wading pools, like the wording was just like a little bit different in each of the tables.
I think the answer is we double check the definition, but I think you just say for simplicity, customary accessory uses. And leave it simple. Keep it, but we can figure that out. But that's an easy fix.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, it just, maybe just as it was added over the years, it was added slightly differently or copied from a different.
Yeah, and I didn't catch,
Those terms like private garage, shed, storage, the way that it's worded was just like a little bit different in some of the zones.
we'll double check that for, Kristen and I will double check that for consistency and then,
Yeah,
Um,
a combination.
and just consistency with the text for, and that's 9811E. I think the important part is that the accessory should be subordinate to the residential use and not
That's-
operated for
That's the
gain.
key, right?
That language has to
That's
stay.
like-
That language really needs to, you know,
That part is good.
incidental and subordinate to. There's nothing like, you got the little teeny tiny house and then you've got like a indoor basketball court next to it that's 3 times the size of the house. Like, yeah, that's not what you want.
Any comments on the tables, on the uses, on the bulk regs? Awesome.
I don't think so. We also cleaned up, in some instances, your table said, made distinctions between public and private schools. That's a no-no. That's a RLUIPA religious First Amendment issue. So we cleaned that up. So that's why you now see School of General Instruction. And then there's provisions for that.
And was there something with religious institutions?
Yes. Yes, we cleaned that up as well.
No.
It is a special use permit, so there's some flexibility in terms of, you know, regulating in terms of noise and impact to the neighbors. But generally speaking, particularly in residential zones, religious uses from a federal standpoint receive a beneficial treatment in terms of we operate federally that religious uses are a benefit to the community, churches and the like. So generally they are permitted in, and the burden is really on the municipality to show why a religious use shouldn't be in a specific zone. Now, should you have a church in your middle of your industrial zone? Probably not. That's not a, great thing. But residential, it's presumed that it's in conformity with the neighborhood because neighborhoods have churches.
There was a case on that. I think it was the battle of the Mike Donnelly, Rick Golden battle of the Titans about 10 years ago.
Now I'm going to go look it up.
About religious land use being able to locate in an industrial zone
Oh,
in Westgate in the Village of Goshen.
Wow.
I won't spoil it. I'll let you read
I wrote that.
it.
Westgate's though that's not like industrial though, is
It was 20 years ago.
Okay, but it's not now.
No, now it's medical office.
You want to put a church in there, I'm like, okay, let there be a church.
And this also lists what you were talking about, the parcels that were taken,
Yep.
and so we
Those
have
are
that.
those are the 4 parcels
Okay.
that we're talking about.
Okay.
So you have two sets of questions, one for the text, and then there's another set of questions for the specific zoning map changes. But this code does not propose significant sweeping revisions. This was really going in with a scalpel, and those were all based on recommendations from the committee. And I think all of these were like on the edges of the district that they're going into. Right, the districts,
changes.
the
Okay.
changes,
Yeah.
Kristen, most of them were on the edges.
The,
The 4 lots
Four
you're
lots that were
proposing to
changed.
change.
oh, the tax parcels, yeah, the lot that is currently zone SBSL is, right, actually has frontage, it does not have frontage on the state highway like everything else is, it only has frontage on Creamery Pond Road. So that was where the committee had concerns that a commercial use would not be compatible with only having access on the residential street, and it's bordered by residential, I think on 2 sides, maybe 3 sides. And the other case is well bordered by residential, that's down off of Lake Station and Davidson Drive. They're obviously already at least a few warehouses in that area, but this is kind of creeping closer towards the residential.
So it's where that school, that bus garage is towards the end, towards, and then moving forward towards where we have that warehouse.
Yes.
It's recently been purchased. I think. So if we have any questions,
Feel free,
No.
feel free to, you're welcome to email me at any point in time. I will not be able to make your next meeting. I have another commitment that evening, but I'm sure you're in great hands with Dominic. You know, again, you can see what he would like you to do as you craft that. But any questions we can answer. Like I said, if you find typos, please let us know, because I'd much rather find typos now and fix them. I think I'm thrilled you guys have some of the questions you have. Like I said, it's always lovely to see that I come into a meeting and the board's read the document. There's nothing worse than when you get there and you can tell nobody's read the document. So I think a lot of the questions you had tonight were great questions. And clearly I've got a couple of tweaks to make before the public hearing. So very easy to do. But again, we're looking forward to your comments so that we can move this process along.
does anybody have any other questions? Chris?
I'll forward them.
Yeah, same. I got
Is
most
that
of that.
Not at the moment.
So I think that's what we do. We really appreciate that you took the time to go through this with us, both you and Kristen. I mean, it really gave us great direction and places to look now, you know, where it's much more visible to us and what you're looking for from us.
Yeah.
So we'll do that, and Dominic will be at the next meeting, and we'll be able to kind of start crafting that. And I hate to say we're going to take our time. We're going to take
You
our
have
time.
62 days. You have your time.
So we don't
The
miss.
public hearing is the second board meeting in October. We did that one to give you the time, but also because of the major Jewish holidays fall in September and October, so we have to be mindful.
I think it was the 27th.
Yeah,
October 27th.
that's the tentative public hearing as of right now. We were
have two
just,
more meetings, so.
there's, I think, Sukkot is on the first board meeting, so you really don't want to try to hold that, this kind of public hearing on a.
Okay.
Okay. We're good. A motion to close the meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Chris, second by
Second.
Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Michelle, we're good.